like this. Check this out. Check it out. What's it all about? Check it out. What's it all about?
It's Jason Bennett from Comics Bodega, and we're back with another Beyond the Synopsis, where we speak with comic book creators about their latest project and get a deeper look at it. I know you're probably thinking, Jason, if you're here, who's at home disappointing your parents? Well, first of all, haha. Second, this is neither the time nor place for that. Today, I'm joined by the co-creators of Medieval, a new ComiXology Originals 5-issue miniseries that debuts November 11th about baseball, the Bronx, and 6th century Britain. It's a time-traveling tale, and it's pretty badass. I took a look at issue 1, and I fell in love with it right away, and you're going to love hearing more about this from the creators themselves, who are writer Neil Kleid and artist Alex Cormack. So enjoy the interview. Okay, we're back with another edition of Beyond the Synopsis, where we take a deeper look at projects from comic creators and hear about them from the creators themselves. Today, as I mentioned during the opening, I'm speaking with the co-creators of Medieval, the ComiXology Originals 5-issue miniseries that debuts November 11th about baseball, the Bronx, and 6th century Britain. Writer Neil Kleid and artist Alex Cormack. Neil is a Xeric, am I pronouncing that right? A Xeric?
Xeric Award, yeah.
Okay. Neil is a Xeric Award-winning graphic novelist. He's penned Brownsville and the Big Con graphic novels, as well as the comic book Nice Jewish Boys, as he's also done Savor and The Panic with Dark Horse and ComiXology. And he's done the original X-Men novel, The Phoenix Chase. Alex Cormack, you've probably seen him a lot on well, not so much yet on Comics Bodega, but where I was with Popcode HQ before. He is the Bram Stoker Award-nominated illustrator from Mad Caves, Buried Long, Long Ago, from IDW's Breath of Shadows, Road of Bones, Sea of Sorrows, Dark Horses, Drive Like Hell. And so together they've joined for the violent, mature, original graphic comic about an okay, sorry. Okay, great. Yeah, you have kids in the background. I kind of have one here too, so he's.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, well, yeah.
He's the bodega cat. He's always got to get in usually at one point or another.
It's a trademark, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they've come together for the violent, mature, original comic about an irreverent would-be time-lost hero ready to go medieval on Camelot in order to find his way back home. Please welcome Neil and Alex to the show. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks so much for having us.
Glad we can connect. Hey, so go medieval on me. I'm ready for it.
Woo.
So your story follows baseball superfan Danny Landau, an ale-swilling, bat-wielding brawler who has a special iron baseball bat nicknamed Babe. Neil, what can you share with us about your badass protagonist, if we're calling him that, from the Bronx?
Sure. So Danny is a guy just like us, right? He's a guy who is working for a living. He's got a girlfriend. He loves baseball, loves beer. Just trying to do right by himself and by the people around him. Not like what I'd call somebody who's in corporate America. He's definitely like a blue collar guy. And one night, while at the local baseball stadium. He got hit in the head with a line drive and ended up in 6th century England. And after a year of being stuck back then in Camelot time, has to basically figure out, like, is this it? How do I get home? Who am I? And also, like what should I be doing right now, like with myself and if I'm stuck here. And the book was Danny's story is actually inspired by Mark Twain's Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, which is a classic book from the 19th century about a guy named Hank Morgan who also gets stuck in Camelot, but is a little bit more what I'd call knowledgeable about things than Danny. Hank, in his story, really brings all the modern conveniences he used to, like newspapers and soap and toilets, but also like military warfare and a sense of like modernism and capitalism. And it's really like a satire on capitalism. And the guy really knew a lot for, somebody who's stuck in England and, brought, Camelot closer to the 19th century. Danny, unfortunately, can drink a beer, build a baseball field, knows how to install a toilet, but that's kind of it. And so we really wanted it. Alex and I really were creating a more like grounded version of like a modern man out of time. Dude gets, stuck in Camelot sort of story, which you've seen like in film and television, right? Kid in King Arthur's Court, Black Knight. There's been just a ton of movies, especially, that have really kind of like mined this trope a little bit. And what ours does is really basically put one of us into that story, especially like I'm a sports fan, right? And so, I have a love of sports, but I also have a love of my family. I have a love of my job. I have a love of comics. There's things that I love. I love pizza. I love, my cell phone. What happens when you are taken away from everything you love, right? And maybe have to like cling on to the one thing that you can still cling to, which is baseball. Like, how do you become a new person? Who do you become when like you have to learn not only to like love other things, but love yourself in a different, become a different man? And so that's really Danny's story. Alex, I don't know if you want to add to that.
No, that was perfect. And it was one of
and
those, I'm sitting back as an audience where I'm like, yeah, you're preaching, man. That's it.
and you mentioned the Connecticut Yankee. I noticed in issue 2, the story is entitled "A New York Baseball Fan in King Arthur's Court."
Yeah.
So I like that nod that you had there. Um, and then like you said, man out of time from present day New York, 6th century England. He finds himself in Camelot and encounters King Arthur, Lancelot, Merlin. Alex, in looking over issue 1, you put a lot of work into detail and environment and really nailed the medieval time look and feel. And it just had me wondering, did it require you to do some research to create this world, or is this a period
Oh, sure,
piece
yeah.
where you felt right at home?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, this like King Arthur, like stories of knights and armor and all stuff. I've, like everybody else, I've been enjoying this since I was a little kid. Like when my son was born, the first book I read to him was a King Arthur book. So this is something that I've always enjoyed and was interested in. So when Neil brought this up, I was like, oh, this will be a blast to draw. Like I drew a little bit of this like in very long ago, but it was just like a little bit. But here was like a whole series where I could like, knights there. So, but yeah, for my research, I mean, it was great because I dug up an old book that my mother bought me when I was like 7. It was like one of these like eyewitness books. It was like a picture book of all knights and everything that they wore. So I'm like, oh, this is great. I have this. I was looking at N.C. Wyeth and Howard Pyle illustrations, and I was looking at like stuff like Monty Python and like goofy stuff like that. And so, and so it was all over the map. And yeah, so like some of the outfits are like costumes, especially, are specifically like oh, like Howard Pyle did this, or N.C. Wyeth and illustrated King Arthur this way. I'll just draw from this, and at the same time also looking at like historical reference and all that. And like there's a montage of the issue we just. Neil, I know you're doing the lettering on it right now. I still got to do the cover, but there's there's a part where you see some like minstrels just in the background, but it's completely the minstrel. I took the outfits from Monty Python, like from that whole scene. And so there's been a lot of research, but it's been a ton of fun to do. And yeah, each character's been just a blast to cook up.
It's so funny that you talk about research and how much art research artistic research you put into this, Alex, because I've been telling folks that my one rule for this book, for me at least, if not for both of us, was like no research. Right? I spent a lot of time researching old like the other books that I've worked on. Right? I did a book. One of my first books was, you mentioned Brownsville, which is about like Murder Incorporated, right? The Jewish mob in the 1930s. So it's heavily researched, and there's a lot of research that was done into the Times, into New York, into the mafia, into each individual gangster, and I spent almost 2 years on that. And then the X-Men book that I just did, I read like decades of X-Men comics, right? And so for this one, I basically said to myself, I know just enough about King Arthur and Camelot to be dangerous. And that is the title of issue 1, just enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
And so that is basically Danny's story, right? Danny knows enough, just like me, about Camelot to be like, yeah, I know who King Arthur is. I know what a knight is, right? But like, do I know everything about like the Lancelot Grail cycle? No. Like, I'm not an Arthurian scholar. I know enough to write this story. And so what I really didn't want to do is get, at least from a writing perspective, bogged down in like presenting Arthur and Guinevere and Merlin and all these characters who you know from like the legends and the myth in a very specific, we'll call it canon way, right? Whereas I've done that, with the X-Men book that I wrote, which is like, if I'm going to write about Cyclops, I got to write him a certain way, right? And so for me, that was like my big rule, right? Like, don't research this thing, just write it from the gut. And so, Alex, I'm glad one of us did some research, because at least it feels a little bit rooted in like authenticity. Yeah.
And you guys caught that. November 11th, you can find out what happens when research versus no research collide.
Boom!
Like
coming to ComiXology.
Like a bat to the skull.
There it is. Yep.
Here's my bat.
Love it. And Neil, I read that medieval. You said that it was said that it's kind of out of your wheelhouse and something very different from you, and I'm kind of gathering that with all the research you put into it. What drove you to create a story like this, and did you find any challenges playing in this new arena, so to speak?
Yeah, so like I sort of referenced, like the last couple of years I've written some pretty emotionally heavy comics for ComiXology. We did The Panic. I did that with Andrew Moody, that just got collected by Dark Horse. And it's a book about a bunch of commuters in New York City who get stuck under the Hudson in a train crash and have to like fight their way out, right? And it's really, really dark, and it's really about society and culture. And then the book I did last year with John Broglia and Ellie Wright is called Nice Jewish Boys, and it's like a very intimate suburban crime story set in the Jewish community that I live in. So it was very personal and it took like a lot out of me to write that book. And so between that and also the X-Men book, which was, like I said, really, really continuity driven. And I mean, I love the X-Men, right? So that was a lot of fun. I really needed like, I don't want to call it a palate cleanser, but something that I could write a little bit more like I said, from the gut, something that could just be about emotion, about like me, about the things I loved, the things I would miss if I no longer had them. And so you definitely, from that point of view, right, it's all gut, less skull, right, less brain. But also, once you kind of dive into it, I mean, it's super bloody, right? It's super gory and over the top, and it's very violent, and it's very visceral, right? And Alex's artwork obviously pairs really well with this story and really brings that like gut punch to the page and to your eyes and all that. But if you look back at like all the other books that I've done, it really is kind of its own thing. It's also inspired a lot by the DC Comics, the Lobo books from the 90s, right? Yeah. The book that Simon Bisley did. If you go back and look at those books and then you look at Medieval, you can really see, at least from a storytelling perspective, some of the DNA And so Alex and I, have been working on this book for a while now. But the third leg of the stool here, the third part of our brain trust is Sarah Litt, who's our editor, who I work with on Nice Jewish Boys.
The senior editor at Ahoy Comics.
Yeah, she's the senior editor. Boy, I've known her since she used to work at DC Vertigo back in the day. We're pals, and I really respect her opinion and trust her advice. And every script I gave her, the note would come back with more blood, more like push it over the top. And so I think the three of us have made a really great team, just in terms of every scene, every sequence. There's a moment where we kind of have to look at and say, how do we crank this to the next level? How do we get this to 11?
Right.
Yeah, I know there was one point I was like, I drew something and you're like, no. This is going to be, you're going too easy on it. We need to see some stuff squirting out and gruesome. And I was like, all right. Well, let's do this. I think
the note was more teeth or something that.
But do you ever feel like you kind of have to rein that in or not make it as graphic as
when I started,
because of what the publisher might say, that you kind of be a little more reserved and not afraid to
for about 2 seconds. For about 2 seconds, I was like, okay, this is kind of getting into this. Yes, I haven't worked with ComiXology yet, and I haven't worked with Neil yet, and I'm like, all right, well, they know my stuff. They know how brutal it is. We'll get in the water, and basically Neil came back behind me and gave me a kick in the butt and knocked me in there. No, go swimming. All right, let's go.
Yeah. And so I have worked with ComiXology, and I think one of the great things about my relationship with ComiXology, and hopefully the relationship with everyone, is that they trust their creators really well. And if I come to them and say, this is going to be a gut punch, this one is going to be like if Frederick Wertham was still alive, we'd be going to court, we'd be going to Washington for this one.
Yeah.
And so they literally said yeah, great, do what you got to do. There was never a point of them trying to rein us in. The only thing that, it wasn't even from them, it was from us, it is a baseball story, right? There's a lot of it that's, you say a great deal of it is, this is really a King Arthur story about a baseball fan. But baseball is kind of woven into the DNA. And one of the places that Sarah, Alex, and I had to check ourselves was, do we use team names, player names? Do we use the licensing, right? And so I'm a glutton for punishment, but I'm not that big of a glutton for punishment. I don't want the MLB lawyer hitting me on the head with a baseball bat. So we really refrained from using player names and team names and marks and logos, and we kind of hint at a lot of it, right? Again, I think the motto here is enough to be dangerous, right? And where do we skirt that line? In fact, I don't want to spoil anything, but the fourth issue that we just are working on right now, there's a moment where Alex turned in one of the pages that has a logo, whatever, and we had to be we went back and forth on what can we really get away with this logo, because it's important to the narrative, but it's not enough for us to go to court over.
Yeah, it's important, but we don't. Yeah.
I know you're trying to make money on this book and not dish it all out, because
right,
they have that. Alex, I was wondering, you're from Massachusetts, correct?
Yes, I am.
So did you find, or have you found, since you're still, not quite wrapped up with the complete, 5-issue miniseries quite yet, have you had to fight urges to throw some shade at this character that you're illustrating? For being a New York baseball fan, or might we stumble upon some hidden Easter eggs where you can get little small digs in?
All right, so when this
don't spoil the comic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I just had to get that out. I just had to get that out.
All right, so when this all got started, I was like, I don't know. I grew up going to Fenway Park all the time. Big Red Sox fan, and on top of that, the rest of my family, like I'm a fan, but the rest of my family, like my father and my brother especially, are humongous fans. Like they know like the stats of every player from like since it began. They know the history of everything. I mean, for crying out, like back in 2004 with the Red Sox, my brother had to go to the doctor because he was having heart trouble because he was so worked up about the Red Sox.
Uh,
I mean, it's so to then do a book about, I will just say the New York team. Yeah,
I'm using the Y word.
the Y word that works. All right, the Y team. I was like, oh geez, so I before I said yes because like the whole story sounded like, oh, this will be a blast to do. But I went to them and I was like, listen, I need to get your blessing. Like this is the story. It's about the Y team. If you say no, I'm going to say no. But then I know my brother was like, "Are you getting paid?" I was like, "Well, yes." He's like, "Then go do it." Like, oh, okay. So I guess
yeah,
he's a mercenary.
there's no worry
But,
about being excommunicated from the family or.
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
I think what's also kind of hilarious is that I'm not a Yankees Y word fan either. Right? I
Bleep
slipped
it.
up.
Bleep it later.
Edit,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm not a fan either, right? Like I'm from Detroit originally, so like I'm a Tigers fan, right? And I don't even think
Okay.
Sarah is a fan either, right? I think Sarah is from the area, but I don't know that she's like devoted to that team. And so it's really funny because people like I'm getting questions like oh, this must be like do you love the team? How do you feel about them and their play? And I'm like I don't care. Like like I mean I care in that our character will care, right? Like
Yeah.
and I actually just answered a question on something else, like a different interview where people were like, how do you feel about them right now? And I'm like, I mean, Danny would be pissed. Like
Yeah.
I
Moved
think
on to the.
that just stems from I think that's a pretty big rivalry in baseball and
Yeah, it's a little bit.
both cities, both teams have really passionate fans and like ride or die. It's like you kind of get out here in California, you got like Dodgers who are like that. There's a few teams like that. Yeah, that means a lot. So,
and some of that is really, I think, woven into sort of like the narrative of this book. Like this is a book about rivalries and passion, right? This is a book about two people who love the same thing but want different outcomes, right? And how do they really get along? And most of the book they don't, right? And so it's I think this doesn't spoil the book, but it's there's a lot of like Danny versus Camelot, right? And so how does the fact that he wants one thing and they want another, and they're both passionate about that, how does that sort of like play out and come to, if not a bloody, at least a sort of satisfying outcome at the end? And so you definitely see that in sports rivalries, right? Like I like I'll just like I'm wearing my Lions hat, right? We're rivals with the Green Bay Packers, right? I don't know anyone who's a Packers fan, and I'm sure if I met a Packers fan from Wisconsin, they would be a lovely person. But like when you get us out on the gridiron, right? Like I'm gonna wear my cheese grater hat or something like that. And so there's something tribalist about sports, right? Where you feel like no one ever says, right? Like that I'm rooting for that team. You say I'm rooting for my team. I'm rooting for our team. Like there's an our and a my to it.
right,
And
that
so
ownership,
yeah, and so I think
solidarity.
yeah, and I think a lot of that is woven into this sense of just like I firmly love something and I believe it and I feel a sense of ownership to it. And when I have a rival for that sense of ownership and somebody challenging me, like, am I going to step up or am I going to roll over? And Danny Landau is not somebody who is going to roll over.
Right, right. Like I mentioned, I read issue one, fell in love with it. It looks beautiful. It's written beautifully, and it's cool to see that you're also taking on lettering duties, Neil.
Yeah.
Um, and they look fabulous. Before we wrap up here, there's one thing I'd be remiss if I didn't bring it up because it was one of the first things I saw because it's page 2. Um, you guys have an issue playlist where you have
Yeah,
some
yeah.
songs that I'm imagining that you recommend that tie in with this. You have creator artists, musicians such as
Mm.
Jay-Z, Beastie Boys, Guns N' Roses, Pink. Uh, how did that kind of manifest? And is this something that people can expect for each issue? Are these specifically issue contained songs that work its way into each
Yeah.
individual story?
So
Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself like a music guy. Like I'm a sports guy, but I'm not a music guy. Like I can't speak as eloquently about music and the history of music or what have you, as well as other creators can. And to be honest, most of the time when I'm writing, right, I actually can't even have music playing in the background because it distracts me.
Okay,
This
sure.
book, as I said, like we talked about, like getting outside my wheelhouse. This is the first comic book that I've really written to music, where I really wanted to create an emotional sense between like a music and a sequence, or at least in like a section, so that you can kind of feel like that like internal soundtrack, right?
It's kind of
And so
connection.
yeah, and so there were some like if you look at some of the songs, right? Some of the songs are pretty much like New York songs, right? Like you mentioned Empire State of Mind, right? That's definitely like a very New York song. There's a lot of fight songs, right? Like rock and roll fight songs. There's some Beastie Boys. There's a little bit of Ramones, right? Just music in there, and we're not really even using lyrics or anything throughout the book, right? All we're doing is saying when we were, or at least, and I can't speak for you, Alex, but like when I was writing the book, this is what I had in mind. This is the song. This is the internal soundtrack that was pumping through my guts in my head, which made me write Danny this way or Arthur this way or a specific sequence. And so what I wanted to do was give that back to the reader. And my hope is, if I get my act together, by the time the digital trade comes out on ComiXology, is that I can put together like a little Spotify playlist with all the music, so
That's
that when
great.
you read the book, you can kind of go through it.
Yeah, and that's something that made me think of. I thought about that because recently I had an interview with Timmy Hague for the Archie versus Minor Threats Dark Horse crossover. And I know they created a spot 52 songs or something.
I'm actually curious, and this is really from me to you, Alex, but like, did the playlist help? Right, like
Oh,
when
yes.
you were
Yeah.
drawing the pages, were you actually listening to the music or getting inspired by some of
Yes,
it?
yeah. No, I love because I am a music guy. So no, it was great. So every time there's a playlist, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna put these together. And yeah, and I would play that along. But yeah, so along with that, the like, and then I would add in. There was a lot of Ramones playing with this because it's such a New York band. It's such like I like Beat on the Brat was basically in my head was the like the unofficial theme to this book. Um, and so yeah, no, I so every time you had made a playlist, yeah, I would always toss those on and made a little playlist and myself and had that on while I was drawing. And so yeah, that and a lot of like like just a lot of basically New York based stuff. And
Yeah, I
but
think the
yeah,
one
no,
song
I
that
love it. I love it when you have those on it because I'm like, all right, this is now I'm kind of getting in Neil's head here and we're
and it's
gonna
so
see what
funny
we're
because
doing.
the playlist didn't start with any of that, right? The play When I started thinking about the playlist, I wasn't even listening to the Ramones or to anything, right?
Yeah.
Like any New York based music. The first song I actually listened to was "So What" by Pink, right? Which is what's the line like? I want to start a fight, right? Like that to
Yeah.
me, like that pump was the thing that really kind of got issue one up on its feet, right? Like that to me was Danny, right? Like that
Yeah.
was part of his DNA. And so it's such a strange inclusion on the playlist, but like it was the first. It's really what kind of inspired that playlist.
Yeah.
Great. I'm really excited for this to get out there and for people to check it out. And we want you to do that. Get out there, snag a copy of the ComiXology Originals miniseries, The Devo. Thank you so much to my guests.
Before we go,
Oh
should I
yeah.
show?
Oh
show the
yeah,
bat?
Yeah, bring on the bat. It's
So
bat time.
this was really fun. This is just kind of a fun little like story. Right as I kind of kicked off the first couple issues, I turned 50, and I've
Happy
always
birthday.
thank you. I've always wanted to go to Kentucky. I like bourbon, so I wanted to go on the bourbon trail. And so I went for my 50th birthday to Kentucky, and one of the places on the bourbon trail is the Louisville Slugger factory, right? And I knew I was going to go visit the factory, and I found out that they make custom bats. So I could not pass up the chance to make myself a custom slugger. And if you look at it, I'll see if I can get this on
Genuine.
camera.
Genuine, the boss.
That's Danny's bat,
Danny
right? The
Landau,
boss.
Rudolph.
He
Oh,
starts
that's so
off.
nice.
He starts off issue 1 with the boss, his wooden bat, and now we have it immortalized here. I'll have to make an iron one too, though.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Hey, yeah, if you have any more conventions or something, it'd be a great piece to show off. And
Oh, absolutely, right?
Yep.
It'll help with sales too. Like you're gonna buy this book otherwise.
Right.
yeah, you have to connect with Alex or Sarah. I'm sorry. Yeah, Sarah.
Yeah.
Maybe they can autograph it for you.
Yeah,
Oh, there
that's
you
a
go.
great idea. We should autograph it. Fantastic idea.
Hey guys, thanks so much for sitting down and talking with us.
Hey,
And
thank you.
tell us more about
Yeah.
your story here. I love it. Everyone, Neil Kleid and Alex Cormack, go out and check out Medieval. You're gonna love it. All right. Special thanks to Neil Kleid and Alex Cormack for taking the time to speak with us at Comics Bodega. To see more from Neil and Alex, follow them online. Check all the different places you can catch them on social media and their websites to learn a lot more about these two talented creators. And do yourself a favor and head over to ComiXology so you can check out the Medieval miniseries, the ComiXology Originals series. Head over to Amazon.com/ComiXology. You can find out about the service, the thousands of titles at your fingertips, and sign up. You can even try ComiXology Unlimited for 30 days for free. It's an incredible deal and a massive library for you to revel in. I strongly recommend it. And if you enjoyed this interview, give it a like. Leave a comment with your input for future guests you'd like to see, and subscribe for more features spotlighting creators in the comic book industry. Thank you so much from Jason at Comics Bodega. We'll see you soon.